Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Thank you very much for joining me. Our patient is 2003 Impreza with turbocharged engine, which has a problem with O2 sensor. So the mechanic already diagnosed it, meaning there is no ground coming from the ECM to supply the O2 sensor. And what does it mean that there's no ground? There are a few kinds of O2 sensors, heated and unheated. A heated O2 sensor has, as the name suggests, a little heater inside. What happens when that heater doesn't work for some reason? It's not the end of the world. It kind of the car will kind of behave like you have a dirty O2 sensor, the rear O2 sensor. So it'll have a rough idle, and until it warms up, it will run rich or lean. It kind of depends. Most likely it'll run rich. So it'll be shaking a lot, and maybe there's going to be revving issues. But once it warms up, it should run relatively well, or not as bad. So it's definitely a issue when the engine is cold. For that reason, the heater in the sensor is supposed to bring the sensor up to the temperature quickly, so you don't have that poor start, that rough idle when the engine is cold. So it's not the worst issue, because we are still reading the oxygen levels from the sensor, and actually those oxygen sensors, they don't necessarily detect the oxygen levels in the air, because to do that you would have to actually burn the oxygen to see how much of that oxygen was there. But what they do, they actually measure the difference between the oxygen levels on one side and on the other side, and based on that they detect how much oxygen is in the exhaust gas on the rear sensor. And this is the rear sensor that we're having issues over here. I think that's it when it comes to those sensors. Now, how does the ECM control that? Let me show you from the beginning. This line, this trace over here, this big trace coming here to this pin. This is the pin for the rear oxygen sensor heater, right? And as we can see, it's controlled by this transistor. We have the pin is connected to the drain. The source is on the ground, right? So we are connecting this to ground, and it's controlled by, we have the gate cap, we have the resistor, two resistors, one goes to ground, and one, so this is 10K if I remember correctly, and this is 1K. I can't really see it right now on this tiny screen. Yeah, this is 10.3, so this is 10K, this is 1K. So this one goes to two tiny transistors over here, so standard NPN and PNP transistors that control the gate of the MOSFET, that in turn opens the heater for the oxygen sensor. And the base of these transistors go to our MCU on the other side over here. This is what controls it ultimately. So what can go wrong with this? So number one, check the oxygen sensor, right? Sometimes the heater in the oxygen sensor goes bad, and then you have to replace the sensor. But obviously that's the easiest solution, so that definitely has been eliminated by the mechanic. So next, check the wiring, obviously, and finally check if the ground is actually coming from the ECM. If there's no ground, so on oxygen sensor on this pin you see 12 volts, we're not getting ground, so the ECM is not turning on the heater, and that's what was diagnosed over here. What can cause this? Number one, faulty transistor. Number two, faulty or corroded or something along those lines, the gate trace, right? So either faulty resistor or a corroded traces or anything like that. Number 3, one of these transistors is faulty. They do catch faults, and then you measure, you check this transistor, and it turns out to be good, but it's not being driven by those little transistors. So that's one option. And finally, the MCU, right? Because if the MCU is not going to send the signal to those transistors, then nothing's going to happen. Now, this is not repairable if we have output on the MCU faulty, because the output is either open collector or open drain or open emitter or open source. In either case, on the output we have a transistor. So there is a tiny transistor inside over here on the output, and if it goes faulty, then obviously you have to replace the entire chip. But you have some software in this chip, so it's not as straightforward. It can be done, but on these, I actually have to stop accepting these, because these don't need to be programmed. As far as I know, the last customer that received replacement from me did, I think, the exact same one, also 2000, or maybe that was 2001, but pretty much the same exact ECM, only H6 version. This is H4 version. Two transistors that control the injectors are missing. So what are we going to do with this? First, we're going to replace this transistor. And we have the replacement over here. So we're going to replace this transistor. We're going to replace these two little fellers over here. And that's all we can do. I mean, other than that, obviously, we confirmed that there is the traces are good. There are no shorts. All the resistors are working as they are supposed to, and obviously a visual inspection. But visual inspection revealed this diode to be faulty. Now, what could have killed this diode? Well, that is interesting. It's actually completely, looks like it's deformed. Look at that. It completely, see that? Yeah. Now, I have no idea what caused this. I'm not sure which line this is on. What are these? Over here. But there is no short. Now, I was contemplating that typically when this happens, it's when you're driving some highly inductive loads. So any kind of a motor drivers or ignition driver, injection not so much, although it is also an inductive load, but not so much. Alrighty, it took a few days for the transistor to arrive, so sorry about the wait time, but unfortunately I don't have these transistors in stock because these ECMs are a little bit expensive. Alright, let's get to it. Let's run some music and let's resolder all this and get our bench fee, huh? Alrighty, simple as that. What we did, we replaced the transistors, we replaced the diode. That's pretty much all I can do. As far as the measurements and stuff, I don't see anything wrong here with this ECM. But that doesn't mean anything, right, as far as the measurements go. So the best way is to just do this, put it back in the car, and see if it works. If the oxygen sensor still doesn't work, that unfortunately means that the MCU is actually faulty, and yeah, we just need to replace the whole unit. No way around it. Alrighty, thank you fellas very much for joining me today. I hope you found this at least a little entertaining, and I shall see you guys in the next one.